Gunn-Newberry, Foxy, and Sacrifice Isaac.
Kent Burnham, and I assume if you want to talk about Banshee.
Shawn Devons Beuscher, I'm representing White Lize and Downtown Clown.
Greg Tucht, Ragdoll, and then Channel Zero.
Joe Spiller, White Lize.
My name is Doug Kenworthy, Motherlode, and Load Point Pull.
Greg Devine, Funkin' Punks, Divine Groove, Quietly Violent, Thrust, and that's the 90s.
I was about 5 years old, and I would go to my grandmother's house, and they would always dance and play music. And part of the shtick was I would be the band playing the music for the family. And it just kind of grew from that till I got a toy guitar. And then my cousin got a set of drums. And then we started making noise with those. And it grew into a career.
Did you have any family members that were musicians? Or?
Yeah, I had an uncle who was a singer in the 60s and 70s. And then my cousin played drums. And that's how it gets in the family, that I was aware of at least.
Yeah, so this is stuff that you saw growing up, right?
Somewhat, yeah.
Because for me, it's a mystery.
Yeah, and it really is for me too. I can't say that I was influenced a lot by that. I just know I felt this love and warmth from entertaining people, and it felt good, you know. And part of it is that my one of my cousins had girlfriends, and she was young. You know, we were all the same age. And so her friends would come over. Well, the girls really liked the guys strumming the instruments. And that was another kicker that I have to be honest, that, you know, kind of kicked me in that direction a little bit.
Yeah. I don't remember what age I was when I was introduced to music, but it was always in my house. My mom sang in choirs and choruses when I was very, very young, and she also played piano. And my dad's grandmother, or my dad's mother, my grandmother, she also played piano. And my great-grandfather, my dad's dad, played saxophone in college, and quit playing saxophone when he graduated from college. And I guess right to the first funny story. So I am in my second year of college in Warrensburg, CMSU, and I'm in a band. It was called Crypt Keeper at the time, with another really good friend of mine, Kendall Culbertson, who knows Frank really well, Campobasso. Anyway, 2 years of college, we decide that we're going to quit college because we had this band, and it's like, well, we're doing this full time. We're going to quit college and go join this, or make this band work. And so I go to my dad, and he was paying for my education at the time, and I made a deal with him. I said, just give me 1 year to see if I can't make something happen in music, and if nothing happens, then I'll go back to school. And he agreed, probably just because it was going to save him a year worth of college tuition. Maybe he was hoping I'd never go back. Anyway, and it's summer, and I dyed my hair blue, and I remember seeing my grandfather, and I told him what I was going to do, and he just shook his head, and he looked at me, and he told me his story of him quitting playing saxophone when he graduated from college. And he said, Kent, if you're a musician, he said, you'll never make any money, and no one will ever respect you. And I have to admit, he was probably right.
I don't know about the respect aspect.
Although I feel like I get respect in Kansas City, but he wasn't wrong either. I know a lot of musicians that get no respect, but I haven't made a lot of money, but I've made enough money to make a living and actually enjoy my life because I love what I do for a living. So that's what my grandfather told me when I quit college to crypt keeper full time. And then it was that summer that I got my audition with Banshee, and my friend Kendall ended up not quitting college, and I got the audition with Banshee and got the gig, and so that's
So I was introduced to music really early on. I remember my mom used to sing me Patsy Cline really early. I just remember that. I can still hear it in my head. And then after that, it was more of the I was introduced to country because my parents loved country. Took me to a concert. It was a Mississippi State Fair, I think. That's when I lived in Mississippi at the time. But yeah, it was amazing because we were always active. Me and my little brother. I mean, we were 5, 6, at that time. But I remember, and they to this day, when that music came on, I stopped and I watched. I was just like glued to it. And they knew right then and there that's what I was, I'd be into the music.
I think there was always music in my house. My dad listened to a lot of traditional country and a fair amount of jazz, and my mom was a music fan. Both my brothers played, but like I think I got my first drum set when I was like 6, one of those toy drum sets, and it destroyed it immediately. But like when I was 9, I think that's when it really kind of started. Like I'd go over to my oldest brother's house on Saturdays, and we'd watch Soul Train and pro wrestling. And when I was 9, my goal in life was to be the drummer for Sly and the Family Stone. So that's what I wanted to do. And then by the time I was like 12, I got a real drum kit and started playing, and probably formed my first band when I was 14. So and now that I'm 60, I've been doing this for a very long time, and still doing it because I'm too stupid to quit.
Oh gosh, I was introduced to music back, as a kid growing up in the 70s. I was born in '69, and I was the type of kid that would go to bed in my room but wake up in my parents' bed, somehow, some way. And in the morning, my parents had an alarm clock that was a radio that popped on, and that was the music that I woke up to every day, every morning. And I can't remember the bands of the day because I was so young. I mean, we're talking 3, 4, 5 years old, type stuff. So you're really not paying attention to that. You're just hearing the music and the beat and what have you. So that was my introduction to music. The genres were all over the place, it's whatever they listened to. But music was in my life every morning. It seems like of my life, from those early days.
I was 10 years old when I got introduced to music by my father. He was a drummer, and I used to go watch his band practices and stuff like that. So, pretty cool.
Did he take you to gigs and all that shit, or?
No, they just played in the garage. Him and a bunch of buddies, and they all worked for Santa Fe Railroad, and they got together and they'd go down there and drink, smoke, and play music.
I was introduced to music when I was walking through Metro North Mall. I was walking by, there was a store called Musicland, and there was a big end cap of Kiss Alive 2, Gene Simmons with all the blood running down his face and stuff, and I stopped in my tracks and I was like, that's what I want to be. So I knew from the time I was 7 years old that this was going to be my path in life.
Sweet.
So that started it all, man, and I have never wavered since.
My first musical influences would be heavier rock, to be honest with you. My uncles were very into music. We would go in the basement and listen to records. and they had a lot of really cool old classic rock bands that they listened to back in the 60s and 70s. And I just fell in love with it, and it moved my soul.
Anything stick out more than others?
Yeah, band-wise, I would say Black Sabbath, Van Halen.
And these are what they were listening to?
Yeah. Just a lot of the classic rock bands that you think of, that we grew up with, yeah. Iron Maiden was a huge influence on me as a bass player.
I remember being a young kid and like seeing Alice Cooper on TV for the first time when I was probably like 6 or 7 years old, and just being like, what is that? Barbershop Quartet and Olivia Newton-John, and then you see Alice Cooper, and then I remember seeing Kiss, and you're just like, oh my God, what is that? And of course, that's what obviously captured my imagination as a young kid, and what got me listening to music was not the music itself, but the visual, candy of what that was, and how just so foreign it was, and how just I was like, yeah, you see that? Oh yeah, that. Show me more of that.
Yeah. Back in those early days, I don't remember any particular band, again, because of how young I was. But I do, remember those early influences. And of course, Kiss rocked my fucking world, right? Of course. I mean, that was bigger than life, superheroes, cartoon characters, all, melded into one with fire and, all this cool shit, explosions everywhere. They were like, I want this, whatever this is, right? And at, 5, 6, 7 years old, seeing that stuff, I can't imagine. Well, my parents must have thought. I can't imagine because I lived it, and they weren't too happy with it, But they were loving and supporting anyway, up until I started bringing home the posters to put on my wall, and they're going, yeah, no. But imagine, right? Back in those days, Gene Simmons and that image, to a little kid in first grade, second grade, you'd be going, holy shit, Batman, what the hell is this?
Well, early on, it was R&B. Like, early on, I was into, like I said, I was Sly and the Family Stone and Al Green and stuff like that, because that's just what moved me as a kid. I listened to the top 40 bullshit, and I never really got into it, but, that's what was there. And then by the time I got to age 13, I started getting into Bowie. I saw, I'll tell you the exact moment. I was watching David Bowie on Midnight Special, and he was doing Space Oddity. I was 13 years old. And I'll preface this by, my first guitar hero was Mick Ronson. And because I was watching Midnight Special and Bowie's doing Space Oddity, and the camera cuts to Mick Ronson, he's got that fucking Les Paul down to his fucking knees, and I was just like, yes, this dude's I thought Bowie was weird and cool, but then they showed Ronson, and I'm like, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be. But I was a drummer at the time, but still, it's like that dude looks cool. And years later, I got to meet Mick Ronson and tell him that story. And at home, I have a old K hollow body guitar that he signed that says "Play from Your Heart," Mick Ronson. And so that's one of my prized possessions. But yeah, and then like any other kid at the time, I got into Kiss. So I was into the whole kind of early glitter rock. I liked Mark Bolan, T-Rex. I loved Martha Hoople. But I also liked stuff like Deep Purple and Led Zeppelin. But it was the showier, ooh, this sparkles. And I was like, that's the cool shit right there. That's what's going to get the girls, so.
I think my earliest musical influences, it started in that country vein, just the beat of it, it's all in the beat, right? From there, it went into Elvis was a big influence of mine. My neighbors used to be the biggest Elvis fans I've ever met. Their whole house was a shrine to Elvis. So you'd walk in, there was music playing 24/7. I don't know how those people slept, but Yeah, so it was all Elvis. I bought a couple Elvis records and got into that. And then I discovered Kiss, and then it was all over for me. I love the theatrical rock. And once Kiss came into it, I was like just totally blown away. Paul Stanley was one of the big ones because of his showmanship. First, I mean, he was just crazy on stage, and the banter. Everybody knows the famous banter, you know. Like, I wish I could do it now, but I can't because I have a cold. But it was just off. I mean, it was just off the charts with his banter, everything on the stage, playing a guitar, singing at the same time, getting the crowd going. Sebastian Bach, love Sebastian Bach. Dio's a big one for me. Love Dio. I love the whole magic thing. I love that whole that genre that he sang about. So those were the big ones for me.
Kiss, I mean, just like everybody, but that, I was so young, man, I was mesmerized by their, you know, makeup, all that, but my first album was Captain and Tennille. Believe that or not.
So how do you make the jump from Captain and Tennille to fucking Kiss?
Well, by that time, at that point in time, you know, that was what I was around with my mom and stuff. Love will keep us up. All right, cool. You know, and then I got introduced to Kiss by the movie. Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park, and I was just like, holy shit, this is cool. You know, and after that, I wanted to spit blood, set stuff on fire, you know.
I used to throw like concerts in my garage, and so we built the stage and stuff, and we'd always have like the parents come in, and you know, you had to have like cool effects and stuff, so we'd like throw baby powder in the air to make smoke and stuff. It was awesome.
Right.
Of course, it was like, my mom's like, you're cleaning that up, but it was good times. So I have a really eclectic mix of music because, as I was saying, I lived with had a single mother. And she listened to a lot of country and like 70s rock, like Linda Ronstadt and stuff like that. And I got introduced into Kiss. And she's like, oh dear Jesus, what is this stuff, you know? But she was also a great mom, so she would be like, I'll get you this record, but you got to listen to this stuff. So I grew up literally listening to everything from the Statler Brothers to the Oak Ridge Boys, to Kiss, Van Halen, Tom Petty, you know, so I have a really wide range of music. Like, still to this day, if you looked at my playlist, you'd be like, what? Katy Perry? Then the next song's Marilyn Manson, you know? So I would say I'm very erratic in my music choices.